Now from Sports on 6, the 402 Tip-Off.
Hello and welcome into 402 Tip-Off. Clayton Collier, Mason Kern here with you. Mason, this week has been insane. I mean, Tuesday I brought out the lounge chairs into the backyard. It was 80 degrees and sunny, and then all of a sudden now we've got 8 inches of snow out there.
State wrestling time always brings severe weather, at least in my experience, getting to and from CHI. So you knew it was coming if there was going to be a week. But, yeah, despite 70-degree temps like 2 or 3 days ago, didn't feel like that yesterday.
This has to be the craziest change in 48 hours that I think I've ever seen.
They say Nebraska weather is very bipolar. That was very much on full display this week.
All seasons this week, and all seasons when it comes to basketball as well. We start off with maybe not the best of seasons for Nebraska men's basketball, falling their first unranked loss of the season, also coming against your rival. It's a double whammy for them out in Iowa City, the 57-52 loss.
Yeah, a very defensive game for the most part. I mean, both teams held to under 60 points. Fred Hoiberg said when you hold a team to 57 on their home floor, you usually come out with a win, especially with an offense like Nebraska has had this year.
Their lowest scoring game of the year.
Right, and, you know, Iowa did a really good job holding Price Sanford in check. Obviously, his return to his former team and his former arena in Carver Hawkeye. He did break the 24-year-old single-season three-point record in this game, led the team in scoring with 13, but he just was running around all over the court and couldn't really break free at times, it seemed. And Bennett Sturtz was a man amongst boys, 25 points for him.
Absolutely. Now, at the end of the game, obviously, you have the court storm. You have all the excitement coming in from that, but nonetheless, it was in the immediate aftermath, we saw in the handshake line, there was a fan that came right up to Fred Hoiberg and his face ran out on the court.
Viral video.
Yeah, slapped the phone away. Today, Fred Hoiberg addressing it, acknowledging that it happened, also pointing out something I never knew. You know, obviously, Coach Hoiberg has a pacemaker. He said, you know, a cell phone coming near him could affect that, which is obviously catastrophic to somebody's health that's dealing with that.
He said he wouldn't survive if that had happened.
Yeah, so, you know, even without that, you have a fan rushing the handshake line and acting the way that you did. You know, somebody's going to react right after a loss. But when you factor that in, it very much explains, you know, why Fred Hoiberg was very resistant to somebody coming up to his, you know, with a cell phone.
Yeah, It's emotional stakes. I mean, he said it's a heated moment. It's a heated game against your rival. You lose. It's the fans are storming. Now, Fred Hoiberg also said he's a fan of court storms. He's not against court storming, but there's got to be protocols or measures in place to avoid fans rushing the handshake line. I mean, that's pretty sacred ground when teams are just kind of trying to show their sportsmanship and, you know, present that even after an emotional loss. And then you have a fan bum rushing you with the phone in your face. It's never going to go well.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? That's pretty much what it comes down to. But as for the actual on-court play, you know, Nebraska has now lost 4 of their last 6. 3 of those have been to top 15 opponents. This is the first unranked loss for them. Still a quad 1 loss. You know, they're 5-4 in quad 1 games. Their record 22-4, 11-4 in Big Ten, 11th in the net rankings. Also, bracketology-wise, they're now down to about a 3 or a 4 seed. I like to use bracket matrix, Mason. It's the combination of all the different bracketologies out there. Kind of gives you a better feel as opposed to maybe going to one
kind of
guy.
Like a composite look.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's the full AP top 25 instead of maybe looking at one ballot. But, you know, that's what's really interesting here for the Huskers moving forward is staying in that top 4 seed range for them. Because if you look at where you are overall with all the regions, you have Portland, San Diego, Oakland, St. Louis, and then all out on the east, Philly, Buffalo, Greenville, South Carolina, and Tampa as your 8 regional seeds for the first round here. Not a lot of West Coast teams that are going to, you know, be one of the more favored seeds. You have obviously Arizona and Gonzaga out there, but looking through right now at your top seeds that are kind of in the middle of the country, you have Houston that's maybe a 1 or a 2. You have Iowa State that's maybe a 2. Illinois that's a 2. Purdue that could be a 2. Kansas that could be a 3. Nebraska looking on that 3-4 line, all behind those, and also Texas Tech not far behind you as well. So if you want to try to get into that Oklahoma City, St. Louis area for the first round of the tournament, Nebraska's going to have to play well if they want to maintain that possible top 4 seed option and staying locally, as opposed to being one of those teams that's going to have to go all the way out to Portland, or a place like San Diego, that, San Diego native here. Yeah. To join out there. You want to be able to be where your fans are in driving distance. So, Nebraska has some games left, has the Big Ten tournament as well. They got to play their way up here to get a favored location for the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, Nebraska fans will travel well no matter where they go. I mean, we do know that much. But at the same time, I wouldn't panic too much in terms of dropping into the 4-5 seed range. The rest of their schedule, pretty light comparatively to the 4 of the last 6 losses, and all of those losses did come against quad 1 opponents. I know Iowa was unranked, emotional rivalry loss, but you still lost to a quad 1 team on the road. It's not like it was a home loss either. So I don't think that necessarily hurts as much as it hurt fans' egos. Obviously, it's not a loss you want to take or stomach as a top 10 team in the country, but I don't think the loss drops them as much as some bracketologists might project them to.
Yeah, I don't think Nebraska at this point is looking at a 1 seed. I think they could probably play their way up to maybe a 2 with a good run in the Big Ten tournament. If they go out and win the Big Ten tournament, then I think maybe you could be edging in there as that 4th number 1 seed. But I think they're looking at a high mostly of that 2, or trying to play to stay in that 3 seed line at the moment. But you mentioned an easier schedule that starts tomorrow against Penn State, a team that's 2-14 in Big Ten play. Their only wins, Minnesota and Washington. But throughout this rough stretch for Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg's talked about 2 subjects that I wanted to bring up. He says rebounding and turnovers have been an issue. Now, in that Iowa game, both teams only turned it over 12 times, but the big factor, points off turnovers, Nebraska only had 3, Iowa had 13, and they were also plus 13 on the glass. So taking advantage of those opportunities when they come on those turnovers is something Nebraska needs to capitalize on moving forward. And also, if you do get it turned over, don't let it become, a pick 6, essentially.
Yeah, and in terms of rebounding, I mean, they were outdone on the glass against Purdue at home, obviously, and then Iowa. I think Ring Mass had 8 rebounds in that game, but your rest of your starting forwards, Price Sanford had 0, and Berke Buchengel had 2. That's not going to cut it in Big Ten play, especially against bigger teams, whether it be on the road or at home on the glass. And we've seen those problems kind of arise at times this year.
1 p.m. tip-off tomorrow against the Nittany Lions over at PBA.
And really, just interesting note on the Nittany Lions, it's a return for Eli Rice, who transferred away from Nebraska to Penn State in the the preseason specials Big Ten does, filming all those little videos like, where's the toughest place to play, or the place that you want to get a win most? Eli Rice said Nebraska. So not sure that'll happen this year, but an interesting note there.
Lincoln comes calling nonetheless.
Yeah, right.
To another road game involving a ranked opponent going down in upset fashion. This time, the 402 happy about it. 91 to 84.
A lot of area codes, zip codes.
That's the Memphis area.
Yeah, there you go.
It is 901. Creighton 91 to 84 over 5th ranked UConn. Josh Dix leading the way with 21 points. Awesome to see for him. A team that really needed a lift, and they certainly get it out at Gamble Pavilion.
Yeah, I mean, really, beyond the score and the emotional stakes that the last week and a half, 2 weeks has been for the Dix family, the Creighton program, really cool that UConn took a moment of silence for Josh Dix's mom, Kelly, who, as we've reported numerous times now, she's passed away from a battle with colon cancer. UConn they kind of surprised Creighton. It came as a surprise to Greg McDermott and Josh Dix that they took that moment of silence. Really a special thing for them to do, and says a lot about the UConn program.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of rivalry with Dan Hurley, and it's fun for Creighton fans to get on him.
Right.
But Greg McDermott pointed out just the classy move there, and how much respect they have with each other's program, and a very classy move there from UConn as well.
And then he goes off and scores 21 to lead Creighton. So I mean, you feel like you're playing for something more, and it's cool to see him have a good game.
Absolutely. As far as Creighton season, an at-large bid, even with an upset like that, is pretty much in the rearview mirror. So taking a look at the Big East tournament right now, they're tied with Seton Hall for the 4 seed. And in the Big East tournament, the way that it lines up, you really want to be at least in that 4 or 5 games, so you avoid having to play the day earlier, not having to go back-to-backs just to try to make your way into the semifinals. Instead, it's just 1 win away. So both of them are 8-8 right now in conference play. Behind them, you have DePaul, who's 6-9, who's coming here next week. So the big key for Creighton is, find some consistency here. Starting, they have a tough challenge tomorrow. They're out in New York City. They're going to play St. John's. But when you come back and you have DePaul on Wednesday night, you got to take care of business. That was a team that got the best of you for the first time in over a decade out in the Windy City. Ugly loss there that pretty much dashed any at-large hopes there. Creighton's going to be angry coming back here for CHI Health Center.
Yeah, I mean, you lose to them on the road, so it's a chance to kind of get some vengeance back at home, especially one that had some stakes and that you felt like you maybe should have won. Maybe some confidence brewing, though, now. You feel like you can beat anyone in the country after you go to UConn and beat UConn, a team that beat you by 30 at home earlier in the year. So we'll see how they do against St. John's, 17th in the country right now, another nationally ranked team. And if they can win that one, which maybe at this point wouldn't be a surprise, they're playing inspired basketball. See, how that projects them into the Big East tournament.
It's a kegs and eggs kind of game. 11 a.m. tip-off out at Madison Square Garden. To Omaha men's basketball, they had 9 seniors honored on their senior day, including Deng Mayer, who, as we've talked about, has passed away prior to this season, the North Dakota transfer. Omaha welcoming his family to accept his jersey, a really powerful moment prior to the game. As I mentioned, one of 9 seniors honored, along with the team manager and 7 active players as well. So Omaha quickly transitioning there from, the emotion of that moment. They've honored Deng all year to then the on-court action as well.
Yeah, really cool to see his family get to have that moment. Really, it feels like they've really been brought into the program and consoled in a really difficult time, obviously, since Deng's passing. They've been at numerous games I've seen, just covering them throughout the year, seeing them in the stands. And so they've been active in watching the team, even despite their son never actually playing a game for the program. I just thought that was a really cool thing to mention, something I've really enjoyed seeing.
Yeah, well done from Omaha for sure. As far as the on-court action, they were taking on Oral Roberts this week. Omaha coming away with their 3rd straight victory.
They're playing inspired.
Don't look now. I mean, first of all, Jay-Sean Glover, he looked right down to the camera, right at the barrel, pregame, and he was just
Locked
as on
in.
target throughout the game. 26 points to lead the way on senior day, no less. The man was on one. Crowd was loving it.
Yeah, they seem to get a big performance from a different guy in plenty of different games. They're very well-rounded. Valentino Simon is the guy I wanted to mention. He's someone who hadn't really started or been a factor in the rotation the entire year up until the last few weeks, and then he's all of a sudden the Summit League peak performer of the week after getting in the starting lineup and putting up some big numbers. So Tony Osborne can shoot it at a high clip whenever he wants. Grant Stubblefield, pacing the offense. Lance Waddles and Valentino Simon in the front court. They really have guys who can go off at any time. So they're going to be a dangerous team in the Summit League tournament.
Well, and speaking of that, they've now, with winning 3 straight, they've improved to 8-6 in league play. This is a team that a lot of, turnover that kind of started off rough this year, but suddenly 8-6 in league play, 4th in the standings right now. Top 6 seeds avoid that extra game. Get that first bye as well. So, you've played your way up to that point. You don't want to be the 7 seed that plays the 2 seed and then having to come back as well. So, it's good for them to see. And no matter what it was going to be, whether they were 2-20 or 20-2, they were going to have to win the Summit League tournament in order to make a second straight NCAA tournament. So to go in well-positioned as the 4 seed, which is probably their ceiling right now, they've got a couple games left to try to lock that up. But a 4 seed would right now put them against 5 seed Denver, who they already beat twice this season. So it would be exciting. It would well position the Mavericks out in South Dakota.
Yeah, and in terms of Denver, I was covering that game, and I talked to Chris Crutchfield after they won. He said that the team has kind of a new motto this year. Him and Grant Stubblefield actually both told me this. It's a renewed energy. It's a renewed spirit. They had a lot of preseason expectations on them, just given the season they had last year and making the NCAA tournament. But they've had a lot of adversity, a lot of hardship this year with Deng's passing, but then obviously injuries and navigating a brand new roster with some important impact transfers who left. So now at this point, they're really playing free. Chris Crutchfield told me that it's a renewed spirit, a renewed energy, and that has kind of enabled this successful 3-game win streak that they're on now, and they're playing very confidently.
That they are, and they bring that show on the road to Vermillion, South Dakota on Wednesday, taking on the Coyotes. We're moving on to Nebraska women's basketball, and it has really been a struggle for the Huskers. They fall at Oregon. They blow a 12-point second-half lead. They get in some foul trouble, Mason. They fall 80-76 to the Ducks. Nebraska's 6th straight loss, and this one was rough. This one you felt that they finally had maybe turned a corner a bit. Big Ten play has been really rough on them. I mean, it's one of, if not the best conference in women's basketball this year. And Nebraska, unfortunately, after going in undefeated, has kind of gotten chewed up in it, now 5-11 in conference play.
Yeah, and it wasn't, the weakest non-conference schedule either. So, there was optimism and really confidence after an undefeated non-con to go into Big Ten play. You're ranked. It just hasn't translated into playing other ranked competition and teams that are at their level or obviously above. They just haven't been able to put it all together. Oregon, they had the lead, so to give that up, Amy Williams and company definitely disappointed about that on the road. But again, quad one losses on the road, sometimes those are not the end of the world, but in a stretch where you have 6 straight losses, they just keep stacking up.
Yeah, the problem isn't a quad one loss, it's the amassing of that.
Yeah.
And, taking a look at their tournament outlook right now, you one of the biggest things is quad one games and your record in that, and 0-10
yeah,
is pretty rough. As you can see right there, 16-11 on the season, 5-11 Big Ten play. It's dropped them down to 30th in the net rankings, which puts you right on the line for the tournament. And Charlie Cream of ESPN today updating his bracket, he now has the Huskers among his first 4 out. Mason, when we started the week just before Nebraska took on Iowa over in Lincoln, they were among the last 4 buys. They've dropped like 8 spots this week in Charlie Cream's bracket with a loss to a ranked Iowa team at home. And then, a quad one, I believe Oregon was 24th in the net rankings today. A road loss that's quad one variety out there, and that drops you down. But right now, when you're right on the line in the tournament, that can do you in.
Yeah, it can. And on top of that, I mean, it's not like the losses, other than Oregon, at least in this most recent stretch, have been close. They've all been double digits except for Oregon, which was a 4-point game.
Good point.
But after the fact, you blew a 12-point lead. So that also doesn't help you either. So if they were closer losses and the margins were a little slimmer, you're more competitive, maybe helps you out. They just haven't been.
They've played themselves into a position now where they need to finish strong.
Yeah.
And then have a good run in the Big Ten tournament, because you've got 2 games left, and they're playing at Washington, a receiving votes team on Sunday. That's going to be tough. And then they have a Rutgers team that's really struggled this year.
Yeah.
And 18 wins alone isn't going to get you into the tournament right now with a 1-10 showing in quad one games. They're going to have to do some damage in the conference tournament to get their way in.
And then on top of that, you think of the teams that they have played and beaten, at least in Big Ten play. Not the strongest teams in the conference. And then I don't know how much weight the selection committee puts into stacking the NCAA tournament with so many teams from one conference, but the at-larges are, if you have so many from the Big Ten, might get to a point where they pick a team from the SEC or just a different conference just to balance the scales.
And typically when you're sub 500 in your conference, that's usually a tough mark to when you're right on the borderline like this. So like I said, Nebraska is going to have to do some work if they want to try to get back into the big dance. Ending on a high note, though, well, sort of a moral victory. We'll go with that. But how about Omaha women's basketball? They were playing at the first place South Dakota last night, and they take them all the way to the wire, 69-66. The Coyotes end up pulling it out, but Omaha, my goodness, we've talked about how tough it's been this year. For them to almost go out and pull off that kind of upset really speaks volumes to, how Jamie Carey has them play inspired basketball right now.
I mean, compared to the first time these two teams played each other, massive growth and improvement from this Omaha women's basketball team. We have said, no moral victories, all this kind of stuff, but with a program that's in year one, getting off the ground, they've had open tryouts, they've had injuries, all these kind of adversities to get through, to lose by only 3 points to the number 1 team in the league, speaks volumes. And they've been very competitive in this stretch run. They've really shown improvement over the season, and that's all you really want to see from a program where it's at.
Yeah, a month ago it was a 67-39 loss on the home floor. You turn around and took them to the wire there.
On the road, no less, exactly.
Impressive stuff there, and we'll see how they follow it up, hosting Oral Roberts on Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right, Mason, that's a show.
That's a show. Also, Creighton Creighton
Oh my
women.
gosh, we blew right by Creighton women. My
Gotta
goodness.
touch on the Butler win.
Sorry about that. It's not a show.
Almost a show.
Yeah. Creighton women's basketball goes out and wins 67-58 on the road at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Mason, thank you for reminding me.
We had the graphics all made. We were ready to go.
There you go. I don't care what the record shows for Butler. To go out to Hinkle Fieldhouse, storied college basketball venue, and go out and win out there is impressive. And Creighton is trying to build towards the future here. That was a great step to move back to 500 in conference play and get that road win over the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's coming off 2 double-digit losses, 1 blowout at UConn and then Villanova to snap that skid and get a road win at Butler. Again, a struggling Butler team like you mentioned, but young team, freshman-led group to go on the road, get wins in the Big East, says a lot. And then can't talk enough about Grace Buffelli. I mean, almost a double-double, 1 rebound shy of another double-double, but her impact this year as a 6-year senior transfer from Northern Iowa has been profound.
The Blue Jays host Providence on Thursday, and Mason.
That's a show.
That is a show. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.